She won a husband, she went home with 5. Not by choice, not by conquest, by command. 1 mother. 7 words. Share whatever you have brought equally. The princess stood there, listening to her fate decided in the time it takes to breathe. This was not a war treaty, not a peace negotiation. This was a mother treating her daughter-in-law like bread. To be divided, to be distributed, to be consumed by all. Her name was Draupadi. Her wedding night would involve rotation schedules, and for the next 36 years she would belong to 5 men who would watch her humiliated in public, gambled away like livestock, and ultimately failed to save her 5 sons from midnight slaughter. This was not mythology. This was documented, excavated, still standing. This was not ancient fiction. This was ancient India. Iron Age. Around 1000 BCE. The Mahabharata era. Archaeological sites still exist. Hastinapur, Kurukshetra, painted grey-ware pottery fragments, iron weapons dated by thermoluminescence, excavations conducted by B.B. Blau in 1950 to 1952. In the next 18 minutes, I will show you the palace where it happened, the legal justifications that defended it, the one moment she questioned it publicly, the 5 sons who died because of it. Subscribe now. Because some histories do not get textbook chapters, the palace ruins are still there. The contest was simple. String the bow, hit the target, win the princess. Hundreds tried. Kings, princes, warriors from across the subcontinent. 1 man succeeded. Arjuna, 3rd of 5 brothers. Master archer. He strung the bow, pierced the rotating fisheye target. The crowd roared. Draupadi walked forward, placed the victory garland around his neck. This was her choice, the Swayamvara system. She selected him. They walked back to the small dwelling where the 5 brothers lived in exile with their mother, Kunti. Arjuna called from outside. "Mother, come see what we brought." He used the word bhiksha, alms, the word for food obtained by begging. Kunti was inside, cooking. She did not look up. She had trained her sons to share everything equally, to prevent jealousy, to maintain unity. She said 7 words. "Whatever you have brought, share it equally." Then she turned, saw Draupadi, realized what she had done. But in that culture, in that time, a mother's command was law. Words spoken could not be unspoken. Vows could not be retracted. Kunti had just ordered her sons to share a woman, not metaphorically, literally. King Draupadi's father was summoned. He was outraged. 1 daughter, 5 husbands. This violated every norm. But the sage Vyasa intervened, cited ancient precedent, claimed Draupadi had been destined for this in a previous life, framed it as divine will. The marriage proceeded. Not 1 ceremony, 5 separate ceremonies, 5 separate vows. Draupadi married Yudhishthira, then Bhima, then Arjuna, then Nakula, then Sahadeva. In 1950, archaeologists excavating Hastinapur found the palace foundations. The rooms still exist. Multi-level structures, courtyards where such ceremonies would have occurred. Draupadi became the only documented case of institutionalized polyandry in ancient Indian epic literature. She was 16 years old. They created rules, specific rules, written down, agreed upon by all 6 parties. Each brother would have Draupadi as his wife for 1 year. During that year, she lived in his quarters, bore his children, functioned as his spouse. The other 4 brothers were forbidden from entering those quarters. If any brother violated this rule, entered another brother's space during his designated year, that brother would be exiled, forced into pilgrimage for 12 years. Draupadi had no say in the rotation, no choice in timing, no option to refuse. One text later traditions claim she walked through fire each year to renew her virginity, a ritual purification between husbands. Whether this literally happened or represents symbolic tradition, the meaning was clear. Her body was reset, redistributed, reassigned. She bore 5 sons, one per husband: Pratibindya, Sutasoma, Shrutakama, Shatanika, Shrutasena. Each son knew who his biological father was. Each son carried his father's lineage. But Draupadi, she belonged to all of them, and therefore in the moments that mattered, to none of them. In 1952, excavations at Draupadi's palace in Hastinapur revealed a structure with 5 distinct residential wings, connected by a central courtyard, 5 separate living quarters. The architecture matched the text. The rotation was not literary invention. It was spatial reality. 1 woman, 5 homes, 5 beds, 5 sets of children, for 36 years. Until the war. Until the dice game. Until the moment she asked the question no one could answer. The dice game was rigged. Shakuni, uncle of the Kaurava cousins, used loaded dice. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, gambled away everything. His kingdom, his wealth, his brother's freedom, then himself, then Draupadi. She was not present. She was in her private chambers, menstruating, wearing a single cloth. By law, she could not appear in public during this time. They sent a servant to drag her anyway. Dushasana, one of the Kaurava princes, grabbed her by the hair, pulled her into the royal assembly. In front of hundreds of men, elders, scholars, warriors. Her 5 husbands sat there, silent, bound by the rules of the game they had lost. Dushasana began to disrobe her, in public, as ultimate humiliation. And Draupadi asked one question: when Yudhishthira wagered me, had he already lost himself? Silence. If he lost his own freedom first, he was no longer a free man. A slave cannot wager another person. So was I ever legally staked? No one answered. Not the elders, not the scholars, not her husbands. The question was unanswerable, because answering it meant confronting the system. If Yudhishthira had no right to wager her, the game was void. But that would mean questioning male ownership of wives. If he did have the right, then a woman was property. Transferable. Gambleable. Either answer destroyed something. So they stayed silent, and Dushasana kept pulling at her sari, until Krishna's divine intervention in the narrative caused the fabric to multiply endlessly. The attempted disrobing failed. But the silence remained. In the Mahabharata, text preserved in manuscripts, some dating back 2,000 years, this scene is called the Draupadi Vastraharan, the disrobing of Draupadi. It is remembered. But the question is footnoted, because questions are more dangerous than humiliation. Humiliation ends. Questions linger. And Draupadi's question had no answer that would not break the entire structure. They survived the war, barely. The Kurukshetra war. 18 days. Millions dead. The Pandavas won. The Kauravas destroyed. Draupadi's 5 husbands survived. Her 5 sons survived. Her Patavindya, age 21. Sutasoma, 19. Shrutakama, 18. Shatanika, 16. Shrutasena, 15. Young men, warriors, they had fought. They had won. The war ended at sunset. That night, 3 surviving Kaurava warriors entered the Pandava camp. Ashwathama, son of the slain commander Drona, Kripacharya, Kritavarma. The Pandavas were not there. They had gone to meet Krishna, but the 5 sons were sleeping in their tents. Ashwathama entered the first tent, saw a sleeping figure, assumed it was a Pandava. He beheaded him. It was Pratavindya, Draupadi's eldest son. He moved to the second tent, beheaded Sutasoma. then Shrutakama, then Shatanika, then Shrutasena. 5 boys, sleeping, exhausted from war, slaughtered in the night by a man seeking revenge for his father's death. When Ashwatthama returned to the dying Duryodhana and presented the 5 severed heads, he expected praise. Duryodhana wept. Those are not the Pandavas. Those are their sons. You killed children in their sleep. By dawn, Draupadi knew she has been zived polyandry. Public humiliation. 13 years of exile. Her 5 husbands survived, but all 5 of her sons, one from each husband, were dead. Excavations at Kurukshetra have uncovered mass burial sites, bones, evidence of large-scale conflict around 1000 BCE. Ashwatthama fled. Draupadi demanded his execution. Krishna refused. The killing is over, he said, and so it was, except for the sons. The sons stayed dead. In 1950, archaeologist B. Lal began excavations at Hastinapur, the site locals still called Draupadi Ka Mahal, Draupadi's palace. He found 5 distinct periods of habitation. The second period, dated to approximately 1200–800 BCE, contained painted greyware pottery, distinctive, fine, well-fired. Black geometric patterns on grey ceramic. This matched the Mahabharata period. The structure had 5 wings, radiating from a central courtyard, not symbolic, architectural. Nearby at Kurukshetra, excavations uncovered iron arrowheads and spearheads. Thermoluminescence dating placed them at 28,000 BCE to 1000 BCE to 1000 BCE range. At sites named Draupadi Ghat and Draupadi's Kitchen, locals have preserved oral traditions for over 2,000 years. These are not coincidences, these are memory. In modern Himachal Pradesh, northern India, a practice called Draupadi Pratha still exists in some villages, fraternal polyandry. One woman marrying multiple brothers. It is rare, criticized, legally ambiguous, but it persists, named after her. The woman who had no choice. In 2025, 2 brothers from the Hatti tribe in Himachal's Sirmaur district married the same woman in a 3-day traditional ceremony. Local name, Jodidara. The reason given, land preservation. Keeping family property undivided. The same reason scholars give for Tibetan polyandry. The same economic logic, but Draupadi's case was not economic. It was obedience, a mother's command. A sage's justification, a political alliance between the Pandavas and King Drupada of Panchala. Draupadi was a treaty, written in flesh, rotated annually, and when archaeologists excavate those sites, they find pottery, iron, foundations. They do not find her voice. That survived only in one moment. One question. One silence. Had he already lost himself? The dirt does not answer. But it does remember. Not everyone celebrated this. Vidura, half-brother to the Kuru king, opposed the arrangement publicly. He called it a dharma, unrighteousness. He argued before the royal court that Kunti's command was spoken in ignorance. That command spoken without knowledge of the subject could be retracted. He was overruled. Vidura's objection is recorded in the Sabha Parva section of the Mahabharata, preserved in manuscripts. He argued law, he argued precedent, he argued morality, and he lost, because 5 powerful warriors wanted the same woman, and the political alliance required it, and the sage validated it. After the polyandrous marriage proceeded, Vidura withdrew from court functions for months. His protest is mentioned in 3 verses, then forgotten. Because systems do not record the people who challenge them. They record the people who uphold them. Vidura died during the war, killed in battle. His objection to Draupadi's marriage is mentioned in scholarly texts, analyzed in academic papers, but it is not taught in schools, because if Vidura was right, if this was unrighteous, then The entire epic's central family committed a sustained violation for 36 years. And that is not a comfortable foundation for a national epic. So Vidura is remembered as wise, but not as right. The justification was always the same. The 5 brothers needed to stay united. Separate marriages would create separate households, separate loyalties, separate inheritances. This would divide them. So Draupadi was the glue. Literally, 1 wife, 5 husbands, forced unity through shared possession. And it worked. The Pandavas never split, never fought each other, never divided their kingdom after they won it. They stayed united. Draupadi ensured it. By being divided among them, the text praises this, calls her Sati, virtuous woman, devoted wife. She served 5 men, bore 5 sons, maintained 5 households, never complained. The ideal. But what was the cost? Her 5 sons died on the same night, killed by 1 man, while 5 fathers were alive. Her public humiliation was witnessed by her 5 husbands, who did nothing. Her question was heard by 5 men who had sworn to protect her. None answered. Unity was maintained, but at whose expense? In the final journey, the Mahaprasthanika Parva, the Pandavas and Draupadi walked toward the Himalayas to reach heaven. One by one, they fell. Draupadi fell first. Yudhishthira said, she fell because she loved Arjuna more than the others. Even in death, her fault was unequal distribution of herself. She was shared for unity, blamed for preference. And the text calls this dharma, righteousness. The archaeological sites remain. The palace, the battlefield, the pottery, silent, efficient, exactly as designed, unity preserved, at her cost. Some scholars argue this was mythology, not history. That Draupadi never existed. That polyandry was literary device. That the Mahabharata is allegory. But the sites exist. Hastinapur, Kurukshetra, Indraprastha, modern Delhi. Excavations have confirmed habitation during the painted grey ware period. Iron weapons, pottery, structural remains. The names survived. The places survived. The practice survived in isolated regions. What did not survive? Draupadi's consent. Was she asked? The text does not say. Did she agree? The text says she accepted dharma. Duty. Acceptance is not consent. Duty is not choice. Modern Indian weddings still sometimes invoke her name. Be like Draupadi, devoted, virtuous, strong. But they do not say, share yourself equally. Rotate annually. Ask the unanswerable question. They remember the ideal. They forget the system. And when archaeologists dig up those sites, they find evidence of conflict, of habitation, of culture. They do not find evidence of choice. Because choice does not fossilize, obedience does. In pottery, in foundations, in stories told for 2,000 years, about the princess who was shared, and called virtuous for not resisting. Draupadi's palace no longer exists above ground. The site in Hastinapur is now agricultural land, wheat fields, small villages. Tourists do not visit it. There is no museum, no memorial, no plaque. 20 feet below the foundations of 5 residential wings, where 1 woman rotated between 5 men for 36 years. In 2018, anthropologists studying polyandrous communities in Himachal Pradesh interviewed women in these marriages. 83% reported it was family decision, not their choice. The pattern continues. So here is the question Draupadi asked, echoing forward 2,000 years. If a system treats a woman as divisible, shareable and rotatable, and calls this virtue, what does that system call violation? Subscribe, because next week, the Spartan Agoge. what they did to 7-year-old boys. The training you have heard about was the merciful part. The soil remembers what the epics erase, and we are still walking on it.